Way back in the 17th century, William Penn wrote, "Time is what we want most, but what we use worst." We use a lot of devices to measure time. The metronome was invented by Dietrich Winkel in 1812, then improved upon, made into a portable version by Johann Mazel in 1816. And the metronome made it possible for composers to show performers exactly what speed they wanted their music played at. Late in his career, Beethoven was one of the first composers to use the metronome markings in his music, but he often gave the music extremely fast markings, so fast that the music was almost unplayable, making some people wonder if he had made a mistake or had a faulty metronome, or if maybe he was trying to make a point about the nature of time itself. For centuries, we all thought that time moved forward like a clock. Until along came Albert Einstein, who proved that it was all relative, which means, among other mind-bending things, that if you're traveling in an airplane, time moves slightly faster for you than it does for your friend who's standing down on the ground. How much faster? Well, only about 0.00504 seconds faster, which doesn't move you far enough into the future to cheat on your math exams, but it is still pretty amazing. Regardless of how fast time is actually moving, our experience of time varies greatly depending on what we're doing. Standing in line to get your driver's license renewed, time moves at a glacial pace. But on the day your children move out of the house to live on their own, it seems like the previous 18 years or so lasted only a few minutes. When I look backwards at my life, it seems hard to believe that I've been on this planet for 60 years. It seems like both a really long time and hardly any time at all. Of course, a lifetime is a relative term. The average lifetime of an American is 78.9 years. By the way, did you know that we rank 38th in terms of average lifespan among all the countries of the world? Yes, we have a lower average lifespan than Costa Ricans, or Canadians, or South Koreans. If you want to live a long time, where should you live? The average person in Japan lives 84.5 years on the planet. But when you think of your own lifetime in the context of the lifetime of the entire planet, well, that's an entirely different thing. If the length of my dining room table represented all the time between the beginning of Earth's history until today, then the length of this tape measure would be about 4.5 billion years. Our ape-like ancestors wouldn't show up until about here, 1/3 of an inch before the end. And us so-called modern Homo sapiens only come into the picture about 200,000 or 300,000 years ago, which seems like a long time, till you realize it's only about 1/100th of an inch from the end. Spending time outside helps me readjust my sense of time. I once took a bunch of youth on a wilderness canoe trip, and on the first day, all everyone could think about was what time we were going to stop for lunch or what time we would get to our campsite. So at the end of the first day, I had everyone take off their watches and put them in the bottom of their packs. This was before cell phones. And then when the sun came up, we got up, and when the sun went down, we got in our tents and went to sleep. We ate when we were hungry, and for the rest of the week, no one wondered about what time it was. There are all kinds of ways to measure time. the changing of the seasons. The appearance and disappearance of flowers. The migration of animals. The growth of trees. The rising and setting of the sun and moon. The snow on top of mountains. And the transformation of caterpillars into butterflies. If you have to be at work at a certain time, you probably ought to consult a clock of some sort. But life is much more interesting and expansive when we use a wide variety of ways to measure the passing of time. The poet and farmer Wendell Berry once wrote, "Invest in the millennium, plant sequoias." I take that to mean, look at the big picture. Measure your life according to the timeline of the universe, rather than just the appointment calendar in your phone. Time is the coin of your life, wrote Carl Sandburg. It's the only coin you have, and only you can determine how it will be spent.
Pocket,